ahead.
Thanks, Wayne.
Yeah, you've got my permission, but you did ask.
Going live while Wayne is talking. We're live. Welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 221. I'm your host, Greg Gow. The gang's all here with Tony and Mike and John and Don and Wayne and Courtney and John and Jeremy and John and Garth and John. Let's talk about slot cars. Does anybody have any show and tell they'd like to show and or tell? Raise your virtual hand, wave your actual hand, and I'll try to call on you. Courtney, what you got?
I just have my first comment. I sent, I wanted one of those new Easy Tram tire trimmers. So that's your PayPal account. I just sent you some money.
I'm like, what message am I getting? Okay, no problem. I'm actually waiting on hardware to make more of those, so it won't be going out immediately, but as soon as I get the hardware.
As you know, I'm a demanding customer. So
you are super high maintenance.
Yeah, okay.
Why do you need one of those, Courtney? What have you been using until now?
I was just gonna say, have you been using the machine much?
Not much, just one side. It does. Yeah. It's just one side.
Yeah,
it's on the nose.
Yeah, you've been using the GNS already, haven't you? And you just want to easy tram it.
Yeah. The hard tram is way too hard. The easy tram is easy.
Luckily, Greg is he's an engineer, which is like an engineer except different.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing. I get feedback. People asking me for things. It rolls around in my head. I talk to other people. They say, "Can you do something like this?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe." And then eventually something pops into my head. I'm like, "Let's give that a try." So this seems to be working pretty good. So far, the feedback of people who have tried it has been positive. But I'm sure other things will improve over time just because that's the way it is. But yeah, so much better. Like pretty much everybody that has used the Easy Tram is like, yeah, I wasn't even bothering with doing the other. I did my best and it still wasn't even. So I just flipped the axle and I'm like, now you don't have to flip the axle anymore. Just turn that screw and boom. But still measure your wheels, right? Because measure your tires to make sure you're getting them similar. But yeah, no more axle flipping. And also a fun thing that I'm hoping will come to fruition, and knowing Alan, it probably will. But one of the issues with my design is that there's the little things where a bushing pops in, like an axle or like a chassis. But those are only designed for your typical 1/32 scale car bushings with 3/32 axles, not 3mm axles. So now that we're getting so many more cars from Revo Slot and BRM and other cars with 3mm axles, there's no bushing that pops in because they're much bigger on the outside diameter of the bushing. So he's going to work with, I think, Scale Auto or BRM, I forget, probably BRM, to basically make bushings that are the same outside diameter for the 3/32 axles, but a 3mm inside diameter, so that it can still pop them into the little axle holder, but it's for 3mm axles. What you're supposed to do until that comes about is just let the rubber band tension hold it in place like other tire machines. Don't try to force the oversized bearings into the clips because you'll break the little fingers, which is why I supply extras so that you have one chance to learn that lesson. But hopefully one day in the future I'll be able to say, hey, if you're doing 3mm axles and you want to clip them in, go buy these from Alan. I tried doing 3D printed bushings that clipped in, but getting a 3mm hole perfectly centered because I had to ream it out in order to make it perfect, it wouldn't be perfectly centered. So it's like, well, I'm not actually fixing the problem. What, Wayne?
Haven't people been DIYing their own 3mm ID bushings?
I've been just using the brass spacers that come with those cars and just letting them sit down in the V groove. But I've been told by some people that they've tried to force the larger bushings or bearings into the clips.
I would expect that a reasonable candidate for this would have actually been the Scalextric nylon bush. because that's already oversize
But is it 3 mil?
internally. It's not 3 mil, but it's oversized because you have to put the knurl through.
Yeah, but reamers are 3 millimeter reamers. I mean, you're basically asking people to DIY, and the whole
Yeah.
people that do that much DIY probably aren't the ones breaking the machine or buying the machine to begin with. Right? They're making their own machine, or they're coming up with, they're doing anyways. Yeah, we're trying to make things easier for people.
Yeah.
Not things. But yeah, so glad to hear you're enjoying it at least one wheel at a time, and you will get an easy tram as soon as I'm able to ship them, and you'll be able to enjoy it 2 wheels at a time as designed. Thank you, Courtney. All right, anybody else? We got Tony wants to do some show and tell. What you got, Tony?
Oh, not a lot. I bought this from
Ooh.
It's a Hudy flight case.
Flight case.
I thought it was a makeup case.
I was
and
thinking
also picked this up as well.
Hang on a minute. I want to know what's in the box, Tony.
There's nothing in the box.
Oh,
this Hudy will go in the box at some point.
Just bits and pieces I picked up.
okay. So the box is made for the tire truer, is it?
For the lathe. For the lathe.
For the lathe.
Yeah. They had 3 on the website. I booked the 3 and I only got 1. I also bought this for the Hudy tire truer.
What is it?
Some
Yeah,
gadget that comes with you sit the tire truer on it, and they're supposed to be able to do different things. But I've got to figure out how to use it yet.
Does anybody know what that is?
Is it a Hudy Buddy?
I think the Hudy Buddy is just the little stopper thing. This looks
I
like
think I need to talk to Dennis.
Oh, well, he's not here
Oh,
yet.
I wonder what that's meant to be able to do.
Yeah.
Where'd it come from, Tony?
Electric Dreams.
Oh, well, that should be easy enough to find then.
It's got this base with it.
Oh, it's got bits.
Is that with it as well?
Oh, it's got a dial gauge. So, okay, so it's going to be, yeah.
That might be part of the Hudy Buddy.
I think that's the piece that Jim Rose uses a lot, just to go 10 thousandths at a time.
Yeah.
That'll yeah. They probably have one for the G&S tire truer as well, where you can put a dial indicator on that.
That's for repeated accuracy of dimension, isn't it? It's like setting your cutting depth again and again and again.
Well,
yeah, I think it'll hold the dial indicator. It'll hold a tire coring machine, tool, and something else. I just don't remember.
I found the purple thing here. Oh, come on. You're supposed to share. There you go. Okay, so this is the purple thing. The
indicator.
Precision 1 plate for Hudy truer. This is the version that does not include the dial. Helps to measure with precision tire cuts, axle straightness, and works for tire treatment. Made out of quality aluminum and has our axles and collars. Okay, so it's a thing to hold a dial indicator and make a tire treatment thingy.
And an axle right there.
Axle
straightener. Make sure it's straight.
Indicator. So you get that and an indicator and the dial gauge separately. They might have it as a pack.
I like the way they call it a tire massager. You're taking your slot car to the rub and rub.
Yep.
Well, let's just hope the ending is
Oh yeah, here's the one. This one comes with the dial. So this is the indicator.
That is the one I purchased.
Yeah. And their site is being slow, or my internet is being slow. There we go.
It adds a fair whack to the value of your Hudy, doesn't it?
Certainly does.
Nice to have.
If you got a Hudy, sure. And you need to do these things.
You
Like
need your
you're
tires to
saying,
match exactly as the other one is.
and the perfectly straight axle
You see,
and the,
you see, I've seen a lot of people adapt their hoodies to be able to carry two tires at one time.
with a longer shaft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just literally true them at the same setting together. I presume that the barrel is straight. The abrasive barrel is straight enough to be accurate doing that.
There are
You can adjust that barrel
You can
to
adjust it,
get
the
different
parallel.
camber, pitch, whatever.
Yeah. Is that stock
Okay.
on the Hudy, or is that a separate part to be able to
No,
adjust?
when you buy a new one, you have to do that tramming of it anyway. But
Oh, okay.
they tram it usually before they send it out, from what I understand.
Okay. But it is adjustable, so if you do two tires,
Yeah.
you can make sure that it's
You could.
straight across.
Do the best you can there.
Yep. All right. Any other show and tell items, Tony?
No, that's it.
All righty.
I'm not-
Moving on. We got
I'm not
Dewan.
spending a lot of money. I've got big
It was
bills.
same
I've got
amount of
car
money.
insurance to come up, MOT.
I just want to personally thank Tony for keeping the slot car economy going.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks, Tony.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. Someone
In
out there is
England,
making.
all the little hobby shops are disappearing.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's been happening
Someone
for
else-
decades. That.
Someone out there is making tens of dollars. All right, Dewan, you ready to share?
Okay. I thought John was ahead of me, but I guess not.
I guess he wanted to be behind you.
Okay. Mine is a little bit of show and tell on my preparation for the upcoming nationals. And being a bit of an engineer, I'm kind of a data nerd and testing nerd and all that kind of stuff. So I was going to share with you, since I can get to this button here. Where is it at? There it is. Well, first of all, I have two cars. We'll start off with that. I'll do the share. This was my car that I used last year at the Nationals. The Jag with the side skirts and everything. And so I started off testing. This is, again, the car that I actually used in the race last year. And I actually had this car prepared for the race last year and did not compete with it. So starting off this year, I took both of these cars as the starting basis for preparing for the Nationals. And I ran them as they were with the original motors from last year and got a benchmark test. And then I started making the modifications from there, which included changing the motor out with this year's motor. And then, hold on, get rid of this thing here. Yeah, changing out the motor, then changing out the tires to the spec tires. And then finally, and I was putting benchmarks tests on the process as I was going through it to see which one. And my statistics were giving me this car, the Jag, just a notable edge over that Nissan. It was like 0.3 of a second faster, just out the gate.
Was that with the skirts on, so the wheels had to be inside?
Yes. I was testing it. I was testing it the way it's going to be ran in the race. So yes, it's with the skirts on. So I was getting, this thing was just blowing the Nissan away completely. And when I changed the motor, it was still blowing it away initially. And then I started doing the NSR tire treatments. And I'll ask some questions on that afterwards on the best practices of how to go about that in the process. But anyway, after doing about 3 days worth of the NSR tire treatments, this thing just became lightning. And so it may have been the motor breaking in, getting it, 200-300 laps in, and the differences between the motors and the nuances from that. But from going from 3/10 of a second faster with the Jag to the Nissan, catching up to it neck to neck, and then outdistancing it. It was just a dramatic turn of events, I thought. And so this is my data. That's what I was going to show you, my little statistical. It is horrible writing, so I have to apologize for that because I'm not one for handwriting. But nonetheless, this you can see that this is after I changed everything out to make it to race status for the most part. Um, and then I started doing. Actually, this is probably after this first column is probably after 2 days of NSR treatment. So I do have a previous chart that I didn't put up here that showed the stuff going from last year's national status to changing out the motor to changing out the tires to starting the NSR treatment and things like that. And I did everything off of one lane, my track. Everything I just kept as a constant. But anyway, you can see that the Nissan was getting a total of, in this case, 40. Initially, it was 40.4 laps. The Jag was getting 42 laps. And my best lap was 40.04 versus 40.24. And the average laps right there, 42.0 in this case for the Jag. And I had 0 D slots, so I had a real good control. And I just I have a little rating that I put how that drive felt to driving the car. So I came with the 9.8 feeling for the Jag and the 9.6 for the Nissan. Just a little bit more ragged coming out of the turns and things like that. So that was, and then I also run it clockwise and counterclockwise. So I just try to get a gauge off of changing things up. And so you can see that the progress went. So again, the Jag was just completely blowing out the Nissan. And then it started progressing with the Nissan. Well, this is that was counterclockwise, this is clockwise. And so it was a little closer there. And then the next day, still the Nissan was lagging behind the Jag. You can see I got 3 extra laps out of the Jag over the Nissan. 2 D slots in the Nissan versus 0 on the Jag. So I have to factor that in. Fueling factor of 9.5 and that was 9.8 unless. Then the Jag just the Nissan just started miraculously improving. And so I started getting, and for my track, anything under 4 is just phenomenal. I had magnet cars, so it was the only thing that could get under 4-second laps way in the early days, and I haven't ran them in a while. But so this one came up with 3.81, which was for the most part a record for my for a non-mag car. I had an NSR, several NSR Formula Ones that was just at 3.9, 3.89, something like that. But this became my new track record at that stage. You can see that it beat it out afterwards going forward anyway. So I was just amazed at just how just in a matter of one day it just rebounded tremendously. I still had 2 D slots, and I gave it a 9.6 rating. And then, but it outdistanced the Jag, just caught up and completely outdistanced the Jag. The Jag was getting under 4-second laps quite a bit often.
Oh, so those are 2 D slots, not 11, right?
Yes, yes. They're tick marks. They're tick marks. So that's like
okay. Yeah, sorry. Well, Delon, I got to tell you, you're printing. You would have gotten into medical school, no problem.
I know. I'm telling you. Yeah. They're tick marks, not these guys. Yeah, thank you for that. But you can see that the Nissan just started just killing it. And so and even though this one got it just barely beat it out, the average laps in this one was under 4. First time I got one under 4, and then yeah, so
The
and
one.
it's just yes, sir.
Did you try switching your wheels from one car to the other yet?
You know what I was gonna do? You know, prior to the Nissan catching up to the Jag, I was about to take the Nissan and do a lot of experimenting with it. I was going to change the pinion from a 10 pin to a 10 pitch to a 10 tooth to a 9 tooth. I was going to try that, see how that worked out. And I was going to start doing a lot of experimenting, but it just rebounded to the point that I just said, I'm not touching this car. I'm just going to let it just keep, well, see how it comes back. But that's where I was going at first, to try to see if I could figure out what, you know, because the Nissan was, by most people's account, the better choice car, and I was just surprised the Jag was just outdoing it for initially.
I
But
think it's still worth a go.
yeah, yeah.
You won't spoil anything by doing so. So you know, give it a go.
Yeah. True. But I tell you, fiddling with that Jag, changing tires out and trying to stay in those skirts, and it takes me about 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes to get that thing just right, because I mean those skirts are right on the edge of the tires. You just gotta, you know, so it's really finicky to touch that, but nonetheless, I had considered that. Anyway, so you can see how it progressed along. Now I'm going to be doing more factors. I'm going to keep both cars because they're really right on the par level. The Nissan is still just edging out the Jag in most cases still. But it's touch and go on both of those. They're really on par level. Now I'm going to start doing it.
Are you doing your tests on your Revel circuit?
Yes. It's a 39-foot track, just a little, about 39 feet. And I was using one of my center lanes. So now I'm going to start doing all 4 lanes, and both clockwise and counterclockwise, and get, you know, just get a good feel and good variation on the different types of things. And I'm going to go down there. I'll be at Electric Gym tomorrow morning, start my practice runs there, and keeping up my stats and things like that, and comparing how they come out on the wood track versus me doing it on a plastic track. I do a real thorough.
Sorry, Duan, now that you've run your track in both directions, do you have a favorite direction?
Oh yeah, definitely. Clockwise is definitely my more comfortable direction. And I can just barely, on rare occasions, get a counterclockwise lap to match a clockwise lap. So, but it's a much more challenge. Coming off the downhills, it's a challenge in some of the turns you got to go through, and yeah, it's a whole different layout.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I found with ours. It's like having 2 different tracks.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely 2 different tracks. So this is giving me basically 8 different fields for the car. You know, clockwise, counterclockwise, each of the 4 lanes. And then I started experimenting a little bit more with the controls. I'm still very neophyte when it comes to controllers, modifying the different settings. Right now, I'm using the DeFalco. I did do some benchmark testing with the DeFalco versus my SCP3s, and I got much better performance out of the DeFalco. But I'm going to still work on the SCP3s and see how I can get up to get on a par level with that. But that's a dimension in and of its own, and all the different variables going through all that. But I need to, because I race all of our Far Out Club races. We have the standardized compressor motor controllers with no knobs or anything. It's as basic as it gets. And so that's where since most of my races are with that, I practice with those controllers on the club cars for the most part, most of the time. So anyhow, so that's just takes me through the strategy. But I had some questions. I'll go ahead and stop my share. Does anybody have any questions on my little statistics here?
Yeah, where did you get your form, Duan? Did you create
I
that?
made it up. That's just a Word document. I just made it up.
No, that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's,
You know, in Excel, you can just put the numbers in and you won't even have to write anything.
Yeah, but I have to switch over. Yeah, I have to type it. It's the same thing. So, but you would be able to read it. So that's a
Yeah,
big
there's a lot to be said for having something on paper compared to in a
yeah,
spreadsheet. Really is.
yeah. And,
Well,
I thought
the
about
other,
converting.
but to your point, Dewan, the other reason I mentioned Excel is that you can then take the data and you can start
Yes.
spinning it, right?
Yeah, I have because I have. Oh man, I have.
I'm just surprised you haven't created a pivot table for all this, man.
Well, you know what? That's what I need to do. But look, I mean, I have sheets upon sheets of the because every time I do a race, I'm doing this type of stuff. But I have so many sheets, and it's front to back of each of these. But it's just real quick for me to just go ahead and hand jot them all down and everything. But yeah, so I probably have about 50 of these sheets.
it would be really good to um, monitor your tire fall off, tire wear, but maybe put some tire prep notes on there and
I have the note. Yes.
coordinate that.
Well,
that
and that's
tire.
that's been the change. The last three race test statistics have been just the 3 days worth of NSR oil treatment, and that's where I was going to. But my next question was best practices on applying the NSR. I'm using just the standard NSR rubber, special NSR rubber treatment.
Either that, yeah, or commonly known as 3-in-1 oil.
Okay.
Exactly
But
what
at 1/10 of the price, right?
exactly what they use.
at 1/10 of the price. Gotcha.
That's exactly what's in that bottle, Dewan.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. But do you? So I've been applying it at night and just overnight letting it soak in, and then I come back the next day and do another test run. Is that what is the best practices that people are doing and applying it? Is they doing it on a daily basis over a week period, a month period? I know that Jim will probably do it for a whole month straight.
But that's perfect. Depends what you want to do. I mean, if you're going into a single race, you might want to put more on, but the more you put on, the more it's going to deteriorate the rubber and potentially swell the rubber and just have it come right off the wheel. NSR and a few other folks used to make sort of variation of a tire truer with a little tray on the bottom that you'd put the oil in, and then you just turn the tires in the oil, and they do it for 24 hours. And the tires would be really nice and sticky for one race, and then they are finished.
It disintegrates.
So it's always for club races, it's one thing. I know a lot of guys struggle in proxy races. How much do I want to, goo up my tires? Because if you don't do it enough, they're not going to be sticky enough. If you do it too much, at a certain point in time, they're going to go off throughout the proxy. So oftentimes you see guys go like lightning in the first 2 or 3 races, and then by the end of the proxy, they're 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th position. So, and then over and above that, I've put together a dozen sets of tires, same wheels, same foam inserts, same glue, same rubber, same truing method, same oiling method, and there's a couple of tenths of difference between the tires. So they're so inconsistent, it's really hard to say, just do this and you're going to be fine. Like it's a tough
I guess
call.
it's pretty well academic because it depends on when you get your control tires for the event.
Well, I got mine 2 weeks ago. So.
Oh Christ! So everybody's got lots of time to do what they like.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm guessing what's going to happen though, Dewan, is that track's going to rubber in pretty good, and you'll need a few sets of tires because you won't need treated tires by the time the mains come around.
Right.
And Chris is right. I mean, if I'm just testing here at the house, I'll just do a real light coat and rub it in and let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll do my test. But before I send something to proxy in the early days, I would put a coat on, like you say, a few times a day for a couple weeks in advance. Today, I don't do that because they're so inconsistent. And if you notice my GT3 car, I don't know, it finished fifth 140 times. I can't crack the top three. And I don't put hardly any oil on them just because they're not as consistent. It's you got to true the car the way it's going to run on race 10 like it's going to run on race 1.
Right.
And did the
Chris,
experience a lot of wear then, Courtney?
Not really. They don't really have a lot of wear, but it's, I do a lot of testing. If you look at my Can-Am car, it's got thousands of laps, and I think those tires have finally given up. My GT3 car, I'm moving tires around all the time looking for that magic set. So yeah, and Chris, before you go, we have to talk about Massetti Racing. So
Okay. Okay. The other thing you might want to try, Dewan, if you want to try an experiment, I don't put oil on my tires anymore. Oil. I put oil on my tires, but a different type of oil. I use lighter fluid now.
Lighter fluid rather than truing, I use the lighter fluid.
Yeah, if you're using when you're truing, you're sort of halfway there. When I'm all done, I'll take 4 or 5 sets of tires after they're trued, and then I just put some lighter fluid on them and run them around the track for 20 laps, take them off the track, put lighter fluid on again, try that for 2 or 3 times. So you might want to try that versus the oil and see how you do. And bear in mind, all your testing done on your home Revell track, the Nissan may be fine. You take it to the wood track and you're going to go, what the hell? What happened here?
Yeah, I'm expecting that. Yeah. But
yeah, it's really difficult. And again, back to proxy racing, there's a few proxy racers that don't have access to a wood track, and they tune everything on a plastic track, and they think, geez, my car is an absolute rocket ship. And they send it into the proxy, which is all on wood. Or if the proxy is all on wood tracks, the cars they're going like, what happened to my car? It's because the setups are really drastically different for a wood surface from a plastic surface.
Okay, definitely had that. Had anticipated the world of difference, and that's why I'm bringing them both. I'm settling on one because one may just completely outperform the other one, the wood versus the plastic.
Yeah. And you're setting this up for the slot at Electric Dreams in November?
No, tomorrow. We start tomorrow.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, no, I think I'm coming down with Ernie for the race in November. So.
Okay, yeah, the November Slot Car race. Okay,
the Nationals.
Yeah. And are you using inserts, Dewan?
No inserts allowed, I believe.
We can't put the foam inserts this time.
Oh, you're not allowed. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but I was debating. I was trying to if you meant the inserts for the wheel inserts or the foam inserts. That's why I waffled at that.
Yeah, the foam inserts. Sorry.
Yeah. So okay. But anyway, it's all about fun. This is just another little one step up on one stepping stone up.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping.
It's putting a raceway out, Magna Braid in it.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Yes.
It is Magna Braid, yeah.
It is Magna Braid.
Yeah,
Magna Braid.
in that case, then it won't be about tire preparation. We will, but it'll be about tire diameter as much as anything.
Yeah, there's a clearance minimum.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
You got to
you need
do
to
both.
be there then.
You got to do both.
You'll do both. Yeah.
That's all I had.
All right.
You might want to. You might want to. Maybe you could find somebody on this on the chat who wants to give you like 30 or 40 bucks for that high tech, high synthetic industrial NSR oil there, and you could go out and buy 30 gallons of 3-in-1 and be way further ahead.
But it's NSR tire oil. It's NSR. It's NSR.
Yeah.
Do I have a
It's
deal for
Italian, don't
you?
you? Yeah, it's Italian oil.
Specially formulated.
Yeah, a small little company with a half a dozen employees in Italy is formulating their own petroleum products. Think about that for a while.
I'm sure most of us ended up with a bottle of that. Fortunately, it lasts a pretty good amount of time. But before we end up running out of that initial naive purchase, we find out that we don't need to buy that anymore. Thanks to people like Chris, and that we just wasted a bunch of money.
All right, so Chris, I'm reading that Ernie is retiring from the chassis. He was. I see something about retirement. I see something about the chassis business. Please spill.
Well, I just got back from the shop, and Ernie's working on a new brushless chassis for John Waller, who just won a race a couple of months ago in California. John's going over to Italy for a big race. So I haven't, as of 2 hours ago, I hadn't heard that.
I saw the same press release. I'm sure that, but basically it was he's wanting to divest Mosetti Racing at some point. Not all of his products, just the Mosetti Racing stuff.
Well,
right?
the distribution. I mean, Marco's been on here before. Any of the 30-second scale plastic stuff or related to plastic stuff is going to go through Marco Electric. He's going to be the distributor of stuff. Yeah. So that will take a lot of Ernie's time and focus away from what Ernie likes. What Ernie's favorite thing to do is design Eurosport and wing like metal chassis for commercial racing. So by getting Marco to handle all the day-to-day stuff on distribution, that'll free up Ernie to do more design work and things like that. So having said that, I'm not going to be, I mean, I've known Ernie for, I don't know, 50 years. And we've raced together for 50 years. So, you know, like most of us on this, he's not getting younger. And at some point in time, you're going, okay, well, I've had enough of this. He's taken up golf in the last couple of years, and he and his wife have developed quite a passion for that. So at this point in time, slot car racing is sort of eating into his golf time. So there's a bunch of little things that happen over time. So he may very well step back, but as of this morning, he was designing a new chassis. So I can't tell you.
That's a like a flat track type chassis, not a flexi type chassis.
Yeah, no. This is all.
Eurosport.
He's got his flexis now with the little bracket punched into it for the brushless motors. Now he's doing a couple of Eurosport F1 cars and a couple of 24 scale flat track Eurosport type things with the brushes. That's all it's bizarre now. I don't know if you've looked at.
Hold on.
I guess a lot of people have told you look way better than your dad, eh?
Even now.
Yes.
Yes.
Luckily, she looks like her mom. The first thing she asked me, is this going to be on YouTube?
Yep,
okay.
On YouTube. You are live. Actually live. Dad, can I have a snack? Bye.
Your dad's a famous YouTuber now. She
Yeah.
can tell her friends.
An influencer.
Yeah, dozens of people see him every day.
Yeah, I was saying, Courtney, it's funny now. If you look at the, I mean, nobody wants brushed motors anymore. It's getting ridiculous on that other side of the slot racing world.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
I mean, too bad for the guys that were making bank, you know, rewinding and calming and all that, their fancy, expensive motors. But
Yeah, no, but true enough, Greg. But I mean, you had guys. There was a guy from Toronto, a guy named Dan Miller, Dan Camilleri. Same thing. He changed his name. Dan DeBella, Stewie Coford. All of these guys are 70 years old now. So
they're okay.
you know, yeah, we asked Dan Miller, who was probably one of the better known and more successful winders ever, if he was going to transfer this into brushless motors. And he said, I'm done. I've been doing it for 50 years. I don't want to do it anymore. So interesting announcement.
Makes sense. All right. Any more on that topic? Anybody else got anything they want to show and tell? Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I've been doing some testing on Garth's pod. This is the last iteration I tested with twin foam pieces on it. And I cannot believe how much this pod likes to move. I mean, there's a lot of play in it. And the minute I tighten it up, it goes slower. So
Right.
It started out that way with the springs. I put the springs at the highest or the lowest tension I could get. And the back end was actually floppy. I thought, well, that makes no sense, but let's see what happens. It bang on within 2.5 tenths of the lap record. And ever since then, I've been sort of chasing it. This is the fastest iteration with two of the red soft foam pieces on the back, and it works really well. It's within, I think it's the fastest iteration I've had. I'll have to look at my fingers and see, but the red foam softness with either 1 or 2 seems to be the way to go on my track. So that's as far as I've got. I've got the world's boringest video that I'm going to put out because it's mostly me doing a few laps and then trying to put the car back together because I don't edit for Schmidt. So it's just a live feed doing that. And I don't know if I'll put it out on YouTube essentially if Garth doesn't want me to, but we'll see what happens. So that's all. That's all I got.
I don't recall the specifics, and maybe you or Garth can address this, but was there any limiters to how much it moves?
Only the tension of the rear suspension.
Yeah, so it basically will move as much as it. So, yeah, I don't know. Chris would know better than me, but
The screw head's a limit.
Yeah, you don't want it to. The screw is the limiter, but with that much squish, though. I mean, you could be, hitting the tire on your fender or interior or something. I don't know.
Well, I did allow for that. I left plenty of room there so that it wouldn't touch the body. But it was still pretty loose. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. If you push down, there was, 1.5 millimeters or 2 at least of play if you just push down on it. You can push down hard enough to hit the body, but you have to really, squish the foam a lot, and the body isn't heavy enough to do that. So,
yeah.
But as I said in testing, if I limited that movement, it went slower, like 3 to 4 tenths slower, depending upon what I was using.
Right.
And it was immediate. That's the interesting thing about it.
But that was changing the springiness as well. Like the limit.
No, no, that's just adjusting it tighter. Even every time I tried adjusting it tighter, which with whatever iteration of foam or O-ring I had in there, the tighter I made it, the worse it got. So whether that's specific to the car or not, I don't know. But I can say that my experience has been, if I was going to race it, and it also got easier to drive when the rear end was loose like that. Now there is tape on the bottom. You can see that it's limited there. So, you know, there is that factor.
Okay.
And the reason the tape is on there is because I wanted to reproduce the conditions that it had the way I had it set up with the slotted pod, except I hadn't realized that I only had a 0.5 millimeter offset pod and not a 1 millimeter as this is. So I'm going to go back and try the 1 millimeter downforce pod because this gives 20 grams of downforce in this situation. So it's a fair amount.
Right.
So I'm also interested, you know, when I get the polycar track set up to see with less magnetic force applied with the slight stainless steel rails on there, whether it makes a difference and whether it's mechanical or not. So we'll see what happens. I don't have a wood track available to test without magnets. So
it'll probably make, you're getting 20 as it is right now.
Yeah.
You'll probably get 15 to 16 on the polycar track. So it'll be probably about a 20% reduction.
Okay.
Going from the iron rails to the stainless rails.
Okay. So there will be some there, but not quite as much.
Yeah. Now,
which is fine because it'll give me more of an indication of what's chassis and what's magnet.
Yeah. Well, having said that, I mean, in terms of performance, the polycar track is grippier, but with less magnetic downforce available through the rails. So the car sort of feels the same.
We shall see.
I mean, it'll be a whole different set of times and stuff anyways, because it's a whole different track.
Yeah. I could conceivably go through and do the whole thing, but it's a total pain in the ass to switch it out every time and then tighten it up and loosen it up and trying to get optimization out of it. It's like setting up a new car every time, and then trying to be consistent driving it too. It's like, because it's pretty amazing how much different it feels, even being the same car. It's just weird. So little things make a big difference.
And you're using G25s, are you, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's sort of my tire du jour.
They're great tires.
Yeah.
And you'll love those on the polycar track.
Yeah, I've had them on the polycar track already, and they really seem nice.
Oh, they're great.
Alrighty.
Although now that I've got the borders in, it'd probably be more consistent. It would. One of the things that would happen on one particular corner, anyway, that I've got is an ascending corner that tightens up at the end, and it would get onto I had MDF borders, and that was not really a good idea. So all the work I put into it was nil. So I ended up having to spend the money on the borders. So word to the wise, if you want to make your own borders, good luck. Use the ones they have.
If you want to make your own borders, make your own track.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Anybody else got any questions for Mike or input? All right, moving on. Mr. Weber keeps putting his hand up and down, but it's currently up, so I'm going to call on him. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, this is a really small thing, but it's a thing. So this background I have behind me there, from a kit, and we discussed this briefly before, but I decided that I will, as John suggested, I will try to convert this to look a bit more like a 1964 Tempest rather than a 1965 Tempest. And I checked the specs on some things, and it's pretty interesting. The 1965 model with the vertical stacked headlights was only made in 1 year, 1965. In 66, they changed a lot of other things about the body. Between the 65 and the 1964 Tempest, there's 3 inches of difference in length of the overall car, and the wheelbase was exactly the same. So what I'm trying to do is end up with this guy as the car that ran in the Trans Am, Jerry Titus, and I can't remember the other guy's name. G. Anyway, the G of T&G Racing fielded this Tempest pretty successfully in the Trans Am against Camaros and Mustangs and all that. And you think, well, that thing's huge. It couldn't have done very well, but they did very well. And so I want to try to make one of those. And in order to do that, I decided to try to modify the body, especially the front. That's where most of the detail changes are, in the front. So I'm in the process of changing that, and we'll convert the headlights to the horizontal, and there are a couple of other little things to deal with. But anyway, that's it. That's what I want to talk about. And that's all. That's a tiny progress report.
Oh, that's a great start, John. That's going to look great.
Yeah.
Hope so. We'll see.
Looking forward to it. All righty, good stuff. Tony found something else he wants to show. You're going to have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Got to mention it. This popped up the other day. Bench.
Is it called Le Bench?
Le Bench, yes.
Oh, that's the fancy electronic thing. Okay.
What is that? Is that for cleaning tires, or what does it do, Tony?
It's to set the car up. Like a dyno.
That's got a whole application on your phone and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think Travis showed it on his channel once, and I think it popped up again recently.
It's used for running in motors and things like that, running in transmissions, etc.
It's the manual.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think you can set the thing to run at 3 volts, then at 5 volts, and then at 8 volts, and carry on like that over preset timer system and all that.
Let me get this straight. So you control it with an app on your phone, but they give you a manual?
Yeah, get a manual. The manual's there. I had to print it out.
That's to hit yourself in the head for going, why did I buy this? Why did I buy this?
Yeah, a lot of other stuff.
Considering, John, that most slot car guys are over 60, a paper manual is probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, well, okay, that's true. Point well taken. It doesn't require batteries. You don't have to connect it via Bluetooth, because we have enough blue teeth as it is, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Wiffies and
nothing like trying to read the manual off your phone while you're trying to adjust the car with your phone.
That's fair too. Yeah.
There you go.
Hello.
Switching back and forth between the app and the manual for the app.
And John, just I was just thinking about it. On your T&G Racing, the G was Terry Goodsall.
Goodsall, yes. Thank you.
Nodding my head as if I knew that.
That is that. Something to start working on, I suppose.
That's pretty cool, Tony. Let us know when you're actually using it.
Yep.
I guess if you're away from home and you use the wrong app, it might go flying across the room without you being there.
Oh, I don't know.
So does that operate on batteries or just
No, it's
strictly on
electric.
It has
wall
an AC
wart?
It can be
Oh, yeah,
batteries.
you got, oh, there is, yeah.
Does work on batteries and power and 240 power.
I see some banana plug lights
Yeah.
there, and then there's another that power supply near your right finger, right
It comes
right hand.
with a power supply.
Yeah, so there was a DC barrel jack for power,
There you go.
or batteries, but it did look like there was a black and red for another. Yeah, there you go. That might be it.
Is that
Yeah,
power?
that's a UK plug, yeah.
That one there.
That'll be handy.
There's a power supply.
Not to worry, Tony, you've got another 3 of them behind you in those containers. It's okay.
I know. Funny thing is, I ordered the batteries as well with this, but the batteries didn't come. So, I don't know what happened there.
Oh man, what a ripoff! Let's see
Wow.
what the webpage says here.
So that is that.
Spot car technology.
Oh, you got it up there. Look, that's it.
Wow, that is fancy schmancy.
Tony, do you speak French?
That's what those are
see
for.
the
So
French.
black and red if you want to do a motor
Sorry,
outside.
John.
Is the app only in French, or can you get it in
Oh, it
English
comes
as
in
well?
English as well.
I'm
Okay.
serious.
Yeah.
There. Oh,
Like,
and
you know, the least they could have given you is like a baguette or something along with it as well. Jeez.
Jesus, John.
Uses a lithium ion battery like you use in a radio controlled airplane or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty good, actually. They're pretty good.
Lots of fancy stuff there.
Yeah.
Well, once you get used to it, you can build up a system of all the cars and what's the performance, and you can test them how you're going along on the track.
So the application lets you keep track of data from your tests and things.
That's right. Keep track of everything.
That's what computers are made for. So hopefully.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
All right. Cool beans. Neat tool to put into your collection. Anybody else got any show and tell? Are we moving on? Moving on to Club Corner. Anybody got any racing they want to talk about, past, present, or future? Dewan is away from his desk, so we'll wait for him to come back and talk about his racing. Mike, do you want to talk about yours? Anybody want to talk about racing? Guess not. Okay, Mike.
I was muted
You were.
and trying to talk.
Oops.
Yes, I'll talk about my races if you want. Shiggy abandoned this week. I won't tell you what Ratby said about him, as it's inappropriate at this point. But so he and I did a race, and we did 2 of the 3 of the unread pigs. Is for the first raid, the 300 SEL Carreras that I had set up, which are sans interiors, and they're really tippy, really high center gravity. I've changed the wheels out to Garth's plastic wheels, or nylon wheels rather, in the rear, and slot it at the front. And they're pretty decent cars. We qualified within 0.003 of a second of each other. So parity was achieved. I actually, Mike had a little bit of bad luck with the ghost cars. So it left it to me by about 2 laps. So the silver pig is the winner in this particular race. And then we did GT1s, slotted GT1s. Since a lot of times when Mike is the other Mike is with me, Red B, I will dig out cars that I only have two of. I don't have a full set, and I only have two of the GT1s. And I'd love to have another slotted GT1 like that. But I've got a McLaren F1 Longtail, the yellow corn one, and the Porsche GT1 98, the mobile livery on that. And the Porsche has been dominant almost every time. Well, I finally managed to beat it with the McLaren F1 this time, and it was a really close race, back and forth. It wasn't decided until 2 laps from the end when Mike ran out of fuel. It was I had lost it because I ran out of damage points. I hit my 5th damage point, I think, at the very last couple laps, and I had it solid 2 laps in hand until then, and then it went. I think it was about 10 laps from the end that I had a solid 2 laps in hand, and I blew it with a ghost car, and had to head to pits to put damage on, to get my damage repaired. And I thought, oh, that's it. Well, Mike ran out of fuel, and I ended up winning while he was in the pits. So it was really a close fought race. You can see for most of the race, we were pretty much hanging together. A lot of times, since there wasn't a third car in there, the ghost cars were the limiting factors. And so it was a very satisfying but surprising win on my part. I thought, oh, it's all gone. Yeah, it just shows you never give up.
Have you converted the McLaren to the same mechanical spec as the Porsche?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The specs are the same. The McLaren is just a tad higher than the Porsche GT1. Very small amount, but the center of gravity makes and the way it's set up means the Porsche is just solid. I think
those Porsches are good cars.
Yeah. I would love to find another one that has a second livery other than that mobile one, and without having to spend $1 million for it. I really that was my fastest by far of the flat 6 powered cars that I've got. It's really, really quick and just such a solid car. It's just balanced well. So I really like it a lot. If I would have had the Porsche, I probably could have beat it solidly. But it was good. It was a good run, and it was a good try. So good time all the way around.
Good stuff.
I've got a question for Dennis.
Oh dear.
Dennis,
Yes, sir.
I bought this from Electric Dreams the other day. It came the other day.
Oh yeah.
I need to find out how to use it.
I believe that there will be a video online about that. That's the what they call the Hudy Buddy, which is the mounting for the Hudy. With all the extras involved.
Yeah, I've got all the extras with it. Just got to figure out how to set it up and use it.
All right, let me see if I can find something while we're on the line, and then I'll let you know.
Yeah, we found the Electric Dreams listing and was looking at that, but doesn't have any links to help or anything.
I seem to remember that I did a video. So let me see if I can find the video. Quite a while back.
Yeah, while you're looking for that, I'm curious. I don't know. I don't want to distract you from that, but I'm curious, and Dewan probably is too, of what kind of prep you're doing for your tires for your car. Assuming you're participating in the slotted nationals.
Oh, me personally?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Just slap them on and
I
run.
ground them to size, and after that, what you need to do is run them.
Yeah.
And run them. And if you have some time, run them some more. And if you have some time, run them some more. That's pretty much the only thing to do with the G25.
Yeah.
They don't really respond to oil. Plus, with that amount of tire on the back of an inline car with the minimal weight that you're allowed to add, because you can only add 2 of the tungsten weights to it, I would think that you probably are going to be hurting for too much grip if you tried to treat the tires anyway. So I'm not going to do that.
So just glue and true and then run them.
Yep.
That's pretty much what I remember people doing last year. I remember just going to their bench, coming back with a new set of tires and looking at the tires. They were just
run them, clean them, run them, clean them, run them, clean them. Just before.
And cleaning with lint rollers, right?
Right.
You're still here.
Sorry, I missed that.
Cleaning with lint rollers to get the fluff off.
Yeah, clean them with lint rollers, and then just before the race, before the event itself, clean them maybe once or twice with lighter fluid.
Okay.
And then again with a lint roller.
There you go, Dewan. All right. Anybody else want to talk about racing? Okay, floor is open. Find your video yet?
No, it's so far back. Let me tell you. The video page only loads like 20 at a time. So
use the search bar.
If Electric Dreams didn't do one, Tony, there is a YouTube video out there somewhere on the Hudy Buddy.
Is there? Okay. We'll have to find that then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would probably be the quicker way just to Google it.
Oh, there's the one that you did for Electric Dreams. It's only 5 minutes. That's more of an introduction. I would assume that a full tutorial is longer than 5 minutes.
I don't know that there is a full tutorial, quite honestly.
Oh, hold on. 4 chapters.
And I didn't find it.
Yeah, I guess it goes over the basics. Here, I'll put it in the chat link there. And we'll go ahead and fire that up. And, window. I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, so this is, if you just search Hudy Buddy on YouTube, this is the video that comes up, and I put the link in the chat.
Hi, welcome to Electric Dreams for another of our technical videos. If you like our videos, please dial the Luna. It comprises a base, some uprights and stands, adapters, and the dial screws to adjust the size. But how do you know the size? Well, that's where the dial indicator comes in. The dial indicator is inserted into this section here, and inserted until you get a reading on the dial indicator. Well, readings. That's the first. And this then allows you, with the use of an adapter plate, which carries the dial indicator again, it allows you to check.
Took a 5-minute video and made it to 1 minute. Well done.
Yeah, I hear that.
You're not going to get very good results. This is a very useful run oil on them in order to get some.
He's pretty much He's pretty much going over everything that it does in that 5 minutes. Obviously, you probably want to watch it at the normal speed rather than my 2 times speed that I do to get through videos quicker, and pause as necessary. But yeah, it looks like that pretty much tells you everything you need to know, Tony.
And then it sounded like a founding member of the Lollipop Guild there.
Yeah. It almost made me sound like an Australian, I have to admit.
Which is arguably an improvement, Dennis.
Come on. Be careful. Be careful.
I don't know. I've always liked the South African twang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the only one that I've done, that particular one that I know, that I can remember. And basically it shows you how everything works, but yeah.
What you do with that is up to you.
Yeah, after that it's up to you.
Yeah.
That's what this hobby's about, is finding out about how to do things right.
But that looks exactly like everything that you purchased, Tony. So that hopefully will help you out.
You're muted.
You're muted, Tony. We can't hear a word you're saying.
If I can't figure it out, I send it back for a refund.
No, just put it in the collection.
I just put it there next to your 3D printer, right?
Nice. Nice.
Burn.
Don't listen, Tony. They're all just jealous.
That's true.
No.
But,
I've got to stop spending. I run out of money.
When you think about how we practiced this hobby in the 1960s, and how little stuff we had, and how much we managed to do with how little we had, nowadays it's just there's a lot of things where, quite honestly, I question the final value of all of it. Right. I mean,
like the bench.
if you know how to measure the diameter of a tire, why do you need a couple of $100 of equipment with a dial indicator on it that's actually not going to tell you anything more or less?
I remember going to the stationery store and saving up my money to buy a pad of grid paper, which meant I had chassis jigs for a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, graph paper. Anyway, it's a nice tool.
Well, nobody's stopping you guys from still working that way. You can still use your graph paper.
Most of
you
us
can still use your calipers.
I've still got an SCD building jig that it's not the same one that I had in 1970, but it's the same design.
Yeah.
You still use your slide rule?
Yeah,
Not
but
a slide rule.
can't seem
I
to buy
can
any
still
chassis
use
jigs
I can
anymore.
still use a slide rule. I just don't.
What was that, Tony?
You can't seem to find this chassis jig anymore. There's none of them for sale.
Precision Slot Cars, who used to make those really nice ones, the guy has retired, so they're no longer available, unfortunately.
Those were the ones that were made of Corian. Is that the one? Those ones?
The white ones, yeah.
Yeah.
With all the nice engraving on it and the little pins. Was a very nice jig, but as I say, the guy has retired. So I guess he doesn't have access to the CNC machines anymore.
I got the one from Slot Car Corner, which is that one.
Oh, those are the ceramic. No, wrong spotlight. Not me, please. Those are
I've got to start getting all the other bits.
The ceramic soldering plates with all the little holes in them.
Yeah.
He's probably making more money in retirement on slot cars than he was when he was selling stuff.
Is not working.
Tens of dollars is
only about 10.
Jeremy would say.
What in the world?
But you're doing this for the service.
The Hudy case, I was after that for a long time, but they could never find one. But like I said, Electric Dream had 3 of them. I ordered 3, I only got 1.
You mean no one uses the Rusket Adjusto jig anymore? I mean, come
No.
on.
No. Tony, you ordered 3 of what?
The Hudy case.
Oh,
Oh, the
But why?
I clicked on 3 of them, and only 1 come up.
Maybe they thought
Listen,
it was.
Tony does this for the same reason that rock stars marry supermodels, because he can.
Hmm.
There you go.
Okay.
I like to have a supermodel.
Well, with all your tools, you should be able to build one.
Oh,
Be a
John's
supermodel.
got John's got an adjusted, don't you, John?
Oh, I got a couple of them. Are you kidding? In the box, man. Are you? I love them. Yeah, they're great.
They're actually good for building cars for ovals.
That's right. Yeah, they'll turn in one direction better than the other,
Yeah,
for sure.
don't be building a chassis that you want to turn left and right.
Well, but he sold a lot of those, didn't he, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Until Champion came along with their drilled slate.
Yeah.
And you talk about the repackaging of 3-in-1 oil. That's how Rusket started. He was repackaging like floor varnish as rust coat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was a lot of that going on. I remember Philippe repackaging Simple Green at one stage.
Yeah.
In the days when there was so much glue on the track, when they were running 1/24 scale open cars with just gobs and gobs of glue, and the guys would have this problem of popping a wheelie as the car came onto the main straight. He sold Simple Green in little bottles that you could put a couple of dots down right at the beginning of the straight that broke the traction as you went through there to keep the nose of the car in. And that's all it was. It's just rebottled Simple Green. There are guys nowadays rebottling Marvel Mystery Oil to make braid juice and things like that too. There are guys who rebottle the wall hair clipper oil and call it some or other fancy racing oil. If you know what it is, you can get it the same stuff as everybody else is buying it at increased prices. You can just buy it from the original. That's what I do in large quantities. Oh, that's John Weber. That's about the one thing that nobody's rebottled yet.
they just sold the formula,
Yeah.
To all these other companies. So, and they raised the price. So anyway.
Yeah.
Well, John, and you have a lifetime supply there.
I know. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. I bought one bottle 20 years ago, and I'm still using the same bottle, and I've given some away to other people.
Oh, there's Simple Green there. There you go.
Quick
something that's
quick shine.
Quick shine. Sorry, I thought it was Simple Green from the bottle. Sorry.
That's the British future.
Yep, that's the same stuff. Yep.
I actually did a project at the head office of Simple Green a couple of years back. Well, quite a few years back now, and they had in their head office they have this big display of all their products, and one section of their product display had this stuff called Wins Clean Green with a South African label on it. And I said, "Oh, I didn't know that was the same stuff." And they said, "No, it's not. That particular section is all of the illegal copies of in the display was all the illegal copies of their formulation of Simple Green around the world. So these guys had stolen the formulation and were selling it as Clean Green in South Africa as this biodegradable soap, but it was actually illegally done. I kind of had to sort of mutter about not really being a South African anymore. I'm an American now. So what's going on, guys? I missed you all last week. I'm afraid I got so involved with a bunch of other stuff and family stuff that couldn't make it. And this morning I had a family breakfast, so that's why I was late on the call. Did anybody show and tell today?
Yes.
Tony showed off his fancy Hudy thing.
It's Hudy Buddy. Okay.
And his La Bench, the even fancier testing bench thingamajigger.
Nice.
Mike showed off his Garth pod that he's been testing.
Oh yeah, I've got my Garth pod. Thank you. Garth sent me one too. I just haven't had a chance to do anything about it because right now with we had a big retro race last weekend and we've got the slotted nationals coming up. So I really haven't had a chance to do anything else. And I've got 3 white kits sitting waiting for me. There's the 2 new scale autos, the Cadillac and the Peugeot. This races sideways what they call a fantasy car, which is a F for Ferrari, which they can't talk about. So it's a 488, which looks really, really nice. I think that's going to be a really, really cool car when it's done.
Hey, Dennis, does Electric Dream have the 3D chassis for the Porsche and the Peugeot and the Cadillac yet? Do you know?
Quick Crack has them.
What do you mean by 3D chassis?
They have they're doing 3D chassis for those, from what I understand. And since we can't get them some Shapeways anymore, I was under the impression. Now, I do want to hear about the Ferrari Sideways as well, but I didn't want to go too far from those scale auto cars.
Well, why would you want a 3D chassis for a scale auto LMP that has a super fancy chassis already? I don't understand.
I've got a theory on this.
Well, I think they're doing a 3D chassis.
Yeah, they are. They've done 3 different chassis for them now, because the 3D chassis is the latest iteration, and that's like a wireframe affair, very, very flexible looking.
Okay.
And very, very well at the disc of 24 hours of Paul Ricard last month.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem to me that Scale Auto are kind of admitting that the grey chassis is not all they hoped it would be. Now, I'm told that they're not always coming out of the box flat, and you can't flatten them. I don't know about that. I've never handled a Scale Auto chassis base plate in that way. So if they're not flat out the box, then you're up the creek without a paddle. So then they shot the same molds with a black material, which turns out to be stiffer, and they called it a stiff chassis. And that wasn't obviously doing the business. And so now they've produced this 3D printed alternative.
All right. Okay. So I hadn't heard about that. I'm obviously not up with what's going on as much as I thought I was. But all I could say is if there is one coming, well, then they may well be available overseas. Yeah, because that's how mine is, right?
Right. Yeah.
I would think that their biggest if there was a mistake, to be made here, we do have it. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Well, but okay, I just didn't know they have one for the Porsche. I don't know if they have it for the
for the
car.
for the Cadillac or the Peugeot. Probably not, because these have just arrived.
But that chassis you showed looks like the old 3D printed chassis. Because
I think it's the first one.
Yeah, that's the same design as the injection molded ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right, Dennis, you have homework.
Sounds like it.
But if you want 3D printed chassis, I can make those.
I know. How do I get them? Do I have to cloud print? Is that the deal?
Well, here's the thing. am going to get some stuff printed quite soon. For various different projects. So if you need anything, I can design that and have it printed too.
Okay.
All right.
We'll talk.
Personally, I think I'm not sure that the change that they made to go to that 12-degree angle winder instead of the bigger angle that they used to have, I don't know that that was necessarily as good of a change as they expected it to be.
I think that depends. I think that depends on what thickness you're running on.
It probably depends on the surface a little bit, yes, but certainly with a long can motor, I don't know that I want that amount of weight that far back in the car.
I agree.
Sometimes they just change for the sake of change, sell something new.
Oh, true. Yeah.
What a unique concept.
Thank you, Lee Iacocca.
Called planned obsolescence.
That's right.
Well, the Vactor in Germany designed those chassis, did he not?
I don't know who did them.
Yeah. And I think the chassis is specifically designed to pick up any benefit in magnetic traction that the motor in that orientation and that far back could pick up from plastic track rails. If you think about it, the width of the magnetic force field has gone wider because of the change in angle, and the magnet downforce is closer to the back axle, not the center of the car.
True.
So those two things combined should make a better performing magnet car based on its motor pulling on plastic track rails. And I don't think there's any benefit in having any extra pendulum weight near the back for any other surface.
I think you're probably right. Certainly I can, on my wood track, which is completely non-magnetic, you can feel that a regular, a long can angle winder is already problematic, but the long can angle winder in a 12-degree pod is even more problematic.
Yeah, that's why you get yourself an FC 130 and a couple of spacers.
Possibly, yeah.
Actually, the car that ran very well at Le Mans. I keep calling it Le Mans because it's 24-hour duration. The car that ran with one of those chassis that ran very well actually did do that. They had the lighter weight motor in the RT4 motor pod.
Good idea.
So, unrelated question, and I want to make sure that I'm giving the correct answer. What is the typical voltage used at raceways when they're running, Group 12 wing cars, retro Can-Am?
It varies.
Yeah.
From what to what?
Well, usually, if you're talking wing cars and you're talking open wing cars, they qualify on 16 volts.
16.
But the racing is usually on about 13.8.
Okay.
If you're running flat track, ISRA or USRA scale cars, meaning the steel chassis, and you're run, they say between 12 and 13. Most of those run in the upper limits of 12 volts, so 12.8, 12.9. Maybe 13, but not more. If you're running 1/32 scale, we run on the Electric Dreams track, we run at 12.5. At Pirano, we run at 12.5. And then, of course, home racing is lower than that usually.
Okay, that's pretty much what I thought. I didn't realize that they got up to 16, but they're definitely not 18, 20, 24 like.
Oh, no. And like I said, they only do that for open class qualifying, nothing else.
Yeah.
And they're the guys that they're only running the cars 2 laps at a time, right? Because they'll put the car on in front of them on the straightaway, and they'll accelerate slowly to get to the banking with the front end still in the track. And as soon as there's some downforce on it, they nail it. And 1.2 seconds later, they take their finger off the trigger because you've done a lap and a half in that time. And they do one lap. And then they pick the car up and they check the braids and maybe put new braids in. And then if they feel like they need another try, they'll try again. They get a minute to qualify, but they seldom do more than 2, at the most 3 laps in that minute.
But that's only 16.
And that's 16.
Yeah.
And the actual.
And then when it comes to racing, then they switch onto a different power supply and they run at 13.8, I think.
Okay, and 13.8 is basically based on the battery, the previously used car battery being the power supply.
With the 2.2 times 6, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty much what I thought. Just curious. Want to make sure I was giving good answers. Floor is open.
So I got a question for most of you guys that are doing oxygen. What do you need to do an oxygen race? Do you need the latest dongle on it, or what?
Which track are you going to run it on?
On the polycar track.
Do you have a power base on there?
I don't yet.
Okay.
I mean, I've got the original power base, but I'm going to clip it and wire it up to the power supply.
Well, without the power base, don't you just push the car around the track and go boom, boom?
So the reason I asked that question is, obviously you need some way to count laps. The way that oxygen is set up is you can set it up so that up to 6 cars can be counted on a Scalextric digital power base. So if you want to use something, if you don't want to buy any dongle, you don't have to. You can use a Scalextric digital power base to count laps and timing and stuff. You won't have control over, you won't have control over the cars having power or not, or how much power, that kind of stuff. That requires a dongle. If you want to have full race control like you do with Scalextric Digital, yes, you need a dongle. You either need the old one or you need the new one.
Well, I've got the old one, so I've got that in place.
You don't need to buy the new one. The only reason to get the new one is if you want to do Oxygen version 4, which generally isn't necessary except for really data heavy, so more than 6 cars kind of thing.
SCP-3s.
SCP-3s.
Well, I've got 2. Can you use SCP-2s with the digital cartridge?
Not on Oxygen 4.
Yeah. So, and you can use SCP-3 with Oxygen 3 as well. So you don't have to use Oxygen 4 if you get SCP-3s, right? So if you have whatever controllers you have, they all work with Oxygen version 3. And the dongle you have works with Oxygen version 3. So that's all you need. You put magnets under the track in the appropriate places so that the Hall effect sensor tracks that as a lap. You do the same thing for the pit lane if you put a pit lane in. But otherwise it's all wireless via the dongle that you plug into your PC, and then you run PC lap counter, chrono, RCS02. The only thing that the rails on the track need in that situation is straight power from your power supply, 12 volts analog.
Yeah, and I'll have to pull the power base that I have out of there before I electrify it.
Yeah, I mean, or you can leave the power base in there.
Well, yeah, but then I don't have the full control over with the race management system.
No. What I'm saying is, if you leave the Scalextric digital power base in there, then you set you move a single tiny little screw on the chip from one point to the other point for the Type C chips.
Right.
For the older chips, you move the wires from top to bottom. So basically, you are telling the chip whether you're using DC or AC.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
the chips can be configured to use AC. So if you don't want to take the power base out of the track, like you want to be able to run Scalextric digital every once in a while on that track, then you leave the power base in there. Let it provide the voltage to the rails, and then set the chips up to use AC. That's what I do, or did until I put analog on my track. So,
but at that point you're still running the full voltage for the power base, correct?
yes, but the power base
You don't
is
have
not.
adjustability of the voltage for the cars.
That's true, but you don't really have that much adjustability for oxygen anyways. Like you can go pretty low, but you can't go super low. Like I don't know how low you can really go before the cars just don't do anything.
Well, and you need at least 12 volts for the lane changer.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, the lane changers still need enough voltage to be snappy, and so
unless they're independently powered.
Unless they're independently powered, yeah, and it depends on what you want to do. There's a variety of ways you can configure it, and you can change. You can for your first test, just leave the Scalextric base in there. Leave it. Don't rewire anything. Just leave it. Set up a couple of cars and controllers as Oxygen version 3. Plug the dongle into your computer. Set the chips so that they're doing AC rather than DC. You can flip that back, later on if you rewire the track, or just run it on DC. It's that works fine on DC too. It just means you lose a half a volt going through the rectifier on the board. If they're all set up the same way, what does it matter?
Yeah, true enough.
So yeah,
I can turn on an Oxygen digital chip on my power track with only 8 volts in it. I've no idea how a car will drive at 8, but the chips work.
The light turns on. Yeah.
I can communicate with it.
Yep.
I can make a motor run. So I don't think the chips operating voltage is the limiting factor, really.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying, whatever for your first test, I would just leave that track the way it is. Put a car on in AC mode, drive it around, plug in the dongle, and play with the program.
Well, the chips that I have are both in AC mode anyway. Now, so it's that makes because I was using them before on the Scalextric track.
Yep. So yeah, even easier.
And they still haven't, as far as I know, they still haven't fixed the problem with.
No, they haven't.
With it. So, what magnets do you use for the start finish line in the pit?
What was that, Wayne?
A powerful one.
A powerful
a neodymium traction magnet is a good option.
Yeah, so I was about to say I started by using the bar magnets that come in slotted cars, which are nice and powerful, but they're short lengthwise. Right. And so what I had problems with was if the hall sensor was too far out or too far in on the chassis, it wouldn't reliably count laps because it's catching the tail end of the magnetic field that's doing weird things. So when I recently did some track manipulation, I stuck the magnets. I took the big bar magnet like you're holding up from a Scalextric car, and they will fit just fine on Scalextric track, so probably easier on Polycar track. But on the sport track, they'll fit between the rail carrier and the inside wall, but not between the rail carrier and the outside wall of the track, because the outside wall has the extra wall for border clip-ons and stuff. So
you'd have to either break them off or.
So I took a Dremel and I knocked a corner off because the rail carrier is at an angle, the plastic is at an angle. So I basically just chamfered the bottom edge of the magnet so that it would sit flat, so that it would be on the bottom of the track surface as close as possible. And then I glued and shimmed to make sure that they would stay put no matter what was happening. That gave me basically the biggest magnetic field I possibly could get between the rails and the outside of the track and the rails in the center of the track.
Do you know if the strength of the magnetic fields makes makes a difference?
No more.
So should I use
Yeah.
like neodymium magnets or?
You don't have to get like a special high strength neodymium. Any neodymium will be plenty strong. So just don't use an old ceramic, brown magnet that have nothing.
No. Well, I have plenty to choose from.
Yeah. So yeah, just the regular Scalextric,
Just
the thicker ones. Yeah. So yeah, I use the thicker ones rather than the thinner ones because they different cars came with thin versus thick. So the thick ones.
I was wondering if it would have any more influence or less influence to the Hall sensor.
What you want to make sure is that it's a single piece. Never put two magnets up against each other because that creates a weird field.
That creates a problem.
So yeah, as long as it's a single piece.
You know those Paris-Dakar rally cars with the drop guide on them?
Yeah.
Those Ninko ones, I think they are.
Yeah.
Henry can operate those on his Ninko digital system and still count laps despite the height of the Hall sensor being, I don't know, in the region of 20 mil above the track.
Yeah.
That's interesting because one of my theories that they had problems with the Hall sensor counting laps and stuff was that the Hall sensor had varying heights on it. I know in cars, when you use Hall sensors for ignition, it makes a huge difference if you haven't got it set right. But that's a different.
Yeah, I think the slotted Hall sensor is set to be very sensitive, which is also why a lot of us were speculating that extra laps and false laps were being detected by lane change solenoids and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't look to be actually the case, which we're still finding out. But it seems to be more about whether the Hall sensor is catching a good, clear north versus south magnet versus getting some weird thing off to the side of off the end of the magnet.
There's a test going on right now where they're doing a thing with the Hall sensor. They're doing a potential production change, but at the moment it's in the test phase.
Yeah.
Where they're adding a component adjacent to the Hall sensor, which is a resistor. We don't know what the value is. And I'm not sure why it's there, but I think it might be there to try to desensitize the Hall sensor. Do you agree, Greg?
I am not electronics enough to make that kind of speculation, but I'm going to say no, only because I don't think it's a sensitivity thing. It's because it seems to be happening more often when the car is losing power going over lane changers because of the flippers, the dead spots on the track.
Yeah.
I think it's probably more like what they call a pull down or a
attenuator.
So, yeah, something to basically make sure that the Hall sensor doesn't fire off when it's just because it's losing power and getting power again.
Yeah, I got you.
Like, I don't think it's reducing the sensitivity of it. I think it's making sure that they don't get false signals from power fluctuations.
Yeah, so the board kind of ignores it a little more.
or the Hall sensor itself doesn't send whatever pulse or it does for a power fluctuation like it does for detecting a magnet. Because there's not a whole lot of wires, I guess you'd call it, in it's just three, right? So there's probably just two for making the thing work, positive and negative, and then one for whatever signal it sends, which is probably just some kind of pulse of something saying, hey, I saw a magnet.
Yeah, there's 5 in the ribbon, isn't there? But only ever 3 of them in use. And the reason is because you can plug the ribbon into the chip both ways up, and it will just change which wires it uses along the ribbon.
Oh, really? That's good to know.
So if you get a faulty Hall sensor, you can always give it a second chance by turning it over, plugging it into the chip effectively upside down, and using a different set of wires that go to the chip. And personally, I've yet to see one that failed. start to work again because you've turned it over. That's my experience. I've only ever had one hall sensor failure. So I've only had one opportunity to test that. I do really, really well with these things. I'm very careful with them, but I've never blown a chip. I own 3, that's all. And I've got hall sensors coming out my ears of the older type and the newer type and all sorts of stuff like that. But I have had one fail. And I had one counting 2 laps every lap at a big race where it had already gone through practice perfectly. It had gone through qualifying perfectly. And then as soon as the race started, we took the lead by 7 laps within about 4 laps.
Woo!
And Maurizio was in race control, manually deleting laps until we did a hall sensor swap. And whilst we did that hall sensor swap, he came and stood and looked over my shoulder to inspect my installation. And then he took that hall sensor back to Italy with him and replaced it for me. He never told me what exactly he found, but I got a new hall sensor instead of a used one.
Maybe nothing.
I mean, that's 2 years old news now.
Yeah, I've never had one fail either. Just my old magnet placement being terrible.
It probably needed a little more garlic, just a wee bit.
And some marinara.
Yeah, it's a whole new world, Mike, and it's not plain sailing. It never really has been. It can be, and for a lot of people it is. But every now and again, you'll get something thrown up that you'll not expect, and you'll not fathom. And the forum is full of people working together to try to establish what might be happening, and then doing tests on their home tracks and reporting back to the forum where Maurizio is active and listening and contributing, and it's an ongoing process.
And being
Trust me, Wayne, I followed every thread.
He's
oh, you have, yeah.
He's P944
I was
guy.
speaking to the listeners then.
Okay. And Maurizio is very humble and accommodating and helpful and wants to fix things.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll see. I ordered another oxygen chip with my Acura that's coming. So the Acura hypercar or IMSA LMDH cars.
Cool.
It will be my first pink car.
That's okay.
You got to know, pink cars are the fastest cars.
Yeah, I don't like pink at all. I mean, I was man enough to paddle a pink whitewater boat, but I just
the rest
don't
of
like
us
the
are
color.
okay with our manhood. We can handle pink cars.
They're especially fast when they've got a little gray and blue mixed in.
Well, I don't know about gray, but silver, yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Silver. Silver's not gray.
Ooh.
Yep,
Right, you guys are a bunch of
that's what I'm
chatterboxes.
busy with right now. Busy
Putting your
masking
masking on.
masking
Nice.
up the Ferrari, the sideways.
The fantasy.
The sideways Ferrari. Getting the.
Yeah, I'm tempted by that.
It's nice.
But
it's a very pretty body.
Hold
Done a really
the
nice
chassis
job
up. Dennis, is the chassis, what is the chassis length you think compared to the Ford GT?
Give me a moment and I'll go get a Ford GT and show you. Hold on.
And I was assuming that would be the correct answer.
Why you find the Ford GT chassis to be the best?
Have we moved on to the sideways Ferrari?
Yeah,
it's long and low, and if the Ferrari is close to that, it might be a good option.
Yeah.
All right. So the Ferrari is longer in wheelbase.
Oh, I like that.
By maybe 2 or 3 millimeters. Guide lead, it's longer on the guide lead by maybe the same amount, 3 millimeters or so. No, maybe not quite. Yeah, 2 to 3 millimeters. So it's longer on both the guide lead and the wheelbase. The other thing about it is the Ferrari has less overhang at the back. So all of this diffuser that's at the back of the chassis, it's smaller and maybe a little lighter on the Ferrari. The front end, not a lot different. It has this funny little bend up on the lip right at the front of the splitter
Diffuser?
at the front.
Splitter.
Splitter. Yeah.
Oh, the splitter.
Is that a little bend up in the middle? Is it like a high spot in the middle?
Yeah, it flips up in the middle.
Yeah, that's to clear the rails, isn't it?
You got rake in the chassis, probably.
It's not the first car like that.
It's well ahead of the nose of the body. So
oh wow.
And does the body shell sit entirely on top of the chassis, or is it hanging down the sides?
Hangs down the sides.
Okay, so it's made to sit on those rub screws that poke through the chassis and into the shelves in the body shell, yeah?
No, it doesn't. At the rear, it has some at the front. It has some as well. It has holes in the chassis anyway, right?
Yeah.
There's 2 holes up front there, and there's 2 holes right at the back here. The white body itself doesn't have the pads in it yet, so I'm not sure where the pads will be. The pads must be on some other part of the chassis, because there's nothing just on the plain shell that's anywhere close to where those screws would be. I'll have to find out when I build it.
Doesn't Area 71 have a 296 body shell out?
Yes.
How would you think
Jim Rose has those.
And Sideways are going to do one as well, because they've just announced that their Mustang GT3 is now available, or will be available in the coming days. And then the last of their series for now is another Fantasy, which I presume would mean that it's a 296.
I would probably wait for the 296 because it's more current.
Some of us will probably just get both.
Some of us have a problem.
Some of us have a problem.
Well, I have the problem. I just don't have the cash.
My name is Dennis. I am a slot car addict.
Yes. Welcome, Dennis.
Especially, welcome to the club, guys, especially when it comes to GT3 cars. I love GT3 cars.
Yeah, I'd like to have a full grid of GT3s too.
The problem with GT3s is, a full grid of GT3s means what? All the Sideways cars, all the NSR cars, all the Scale Auto cars.
You see, if I get at least 9 of them, I think I have 9 already. Come to think of it, then I've got, for the 3 of us guys racing, I've got at least 3 different weeks of different cars each time.
Yeah, true. Nice.
So, do you know if they're going to produce the Bentley and the Lexus as liveried cars?
That I don't. I had heard that the Ferrari is only going to be a white kit.
Okay.
So it's possible that the Bentley and the Lexus are only white kits as well. I don't know why they're doing that. Whether it's maybe some sort of shortcut around a licensing issue. But,
Sure.
Yeah, you would think that they would come out with livery kits that they
well,
would
you know,
sell.
if you look at GT3s, there must be hundreds of liveries of just about everything by now.
Yeah,
because you can.
Many of them are very complex liveries.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible things.
Yeah, that's why I'd
You have
prefer to wait.
Well, yeah, you either have to wait for those, or you got to get to the specialist decal makers, and, you know, the Atalayas and the MTRs and those guys. Fowler,
Yeah.
a couple of others.
Yeah, that does require you to be a modeler, which I am not.
Yeah, me neither.
That's what I like about the Gray Ghost.
True.
Don, I still haven't dug it out, and I'll try and remember this afternoon. I have a Strombecker. No, is it Strombecker? Oh God, I can't remember. It was one of the cars that came with this set that I've got, and I don't remember what brand it is. Of that GTO.
Yeah, it's the same kit, because that was an Aurora model kit that Monogram remanufactured. It's the same one, Mike.
Is it vertical lights?
Yep.
I'll have to look. I would swear it's not, but I'll double check.
I like your optimism.
Well, you know, as I remember, we'll see. But you may be right.
Says Mike hedging his bets.
You bet. You know, the problem is I don't bet except on sure things. So I rarely lose a bet.
Yeah, the odds just get a little short.
Yeah.
All right, sounds like we're winding down and we're close to the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the end button. Everybody wave bye. See you next week.
Guys.